Welcome to Mom Breaks. In this episode, you'll learn about Christina's experience with postpartum psychosis after the birth of her second baby. She had no mental health history, no family mental health history, but experienced anxiety and sleeping troubles in the hospital while her son was in the NICU for low blood sugar. She'll describe going to her local ER several times, not living in reality with her symptoms of postpartum psychosis over 6 weeks, and finally getting care when she shared her struggles at her 6-week appointment. Her OB referred her to a perinatal psych ward, and she reflects on how helpful and effective her treatment was there. A trigger warning that will discuss symptoms of postpartum psychosis and situations of fellow psych ward patients, including suicide attempts. Let's dive in. Okay, so would love to start just getting to know you and your world.
Okay. Yeah, so I live in North Carolina. I'm 35 years old. I have 2 kids now, and I think we're done having kids. So we just the 2 for now. So I have a 4-year-old, and my son is 11 months old right now. So I'm 11 months postpartum now. Let's see. I work from home. I have a job in insurance, and a lot of the times I do have my kids home with me. We're at the beach now. I'm having a family vacation. I'm married.
Lovely. It sounds nice to be at the beach. I work from home too, and I also have a 4-year-old, but my oldest is 7. So I have 7, 4, and
Okay.
just 2 as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The same age, 3 years apart. That will be us too.
Oh, nice.
So
That's great. That's great. What's a typical day or week look like for you?
I have a full-time job working from home, and I have the kids home with me a lot. They do go to like part-time daycare at the church. And on the weekends, we try to have fun because that's when we're not working. So I love the summer. I love going to the splash pad in the parks with the kids.
What brings you joy these days?
A lot of things. It used to be not much back right after I had my son. Anything, really, playing with the kids, just getting out and doing things. We like taking trips, road trips, like going to concerts. That's another thing that we do like to do in the summer, like outdoor concerts, watching the kids dance.
Do you have any creative outlets, hobbies, or causes that you care about?
I have lots of things. My husband will say I go through phases of different things that I like to do. Probably one of my big hobbies is like true crime.
Oh,
Watching like court cases on TV. And I'm really artistic. I like to make anything really. I can knit. I used to make candles. Yeah, if I can make it, I'll try to. Making bread is one of the things I like to do. I did do sourdough for a little bit, but that is a whole other thing. It's a lot. So right now I just buy yeast from the store and make it that way. It's a lot easier.
okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'll get back into sourdough
Yeah.
later.
I tried to have a sourdough era and it was not in the cards for me.
Yeah.
Maybe down the road. But homemade bread is amazing.
Yeah.
That is great that you have a way that works without the sourdough neediness.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I noticed that it looks like you had postpartum psychosis last year. So, like,
Right. With
not
my
too,
youngest.
yeah,
Who's old now.
youngest, so your second child. Paint the picture for us about the year leading up to your postpartum psychosis. What was going on in your life, like work, relationships, living situation, anything that feels relevant.
Okay. So the year leading up, so my daughter was 3 when I had him. So we just had the one child at the time. I wouldn't say that there was anything crazy that happened. I would say that we were pretty normal, and we always knew we wanted to have 2 kids. I was working from home with her. Was probably pretty nervous about having 2 kids because I was so used to my daughter and I knew her so well, what she liked. I knew they were going to be different and I didn't know how I would handle that. But I mean, we were doing really well before our second child was born. Yeah.
That really resonates with me. I felt similarly like once baby came, I felt some grief over the change.
Mhm.
So, how was your pregnancy? How did you feel physically, emotionally?
Mhm. So with my first baby, my daughter, I did have preeclampsia, and that was pretty bad with her. I had an emergency C-section. But with my second, I knew that preeclampsia could happen again, but I really wanted to try my best to have a healthy pregnancy and have a VBAC. And I was actually able to do that. So my pregnancy,
Amazing.
I didn't really have any major complications. He was born the day before my due date, but I actually did have high blood pressure spiking during labor. So I had preeclampsia during labor. And so I think that kind of led to some things. They had to give me some medicine while I was in labor to get my blood pressure down. And then I had the vaginal birth. But other than that, my pregnancy with the second baby was pretty good.
Yeah. Congrats on the VBAC. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Can you share what your relationship was with mental health before this experience?
probably pretty non existent. I didn't have any mental health problems, and I didn't in my family either. So, yeah, I,
Same.
I
That was me
hadn't
too.
really I hadn't really experienced anything, so I didn't know about it. I didn't think it would happen to me. Yeah.
Did you know what postpartum psychosis was?
I had heard about it.
Okay.
I had heard about like Andrea Yates, and I knew there was one that had just happened. I think her name is Lindsay Clancy. I had just heard about her too, but I had only heard
Yeah.
about the worst case scenarios where women either kill themselves or their babies.
Yeah, the kind of
Um,
notorious ones.
so
Hmm.
because of that, I didn't think that would happen to me or that that was what I was experiencing.
All right, wanted to jump in with a quick note on Lindsay Clancy. She was a 32-year-old labor and delivery nurse in Massachusetts. She worked at Massachusetts General Hospital, actually. She had no criminal record, was well regarded in her work, and was experiencing postpartum anxiety and depression after the birth of her third child. She had received psychiatric care for suicidal thoughts and urges to harm her children. She was apparently taking 7 different medications and was not, well, she was prescribed several different medications, but only taking a few of them. And investigators found a notebook where she had written about some of her suicidal thinking and some anxiety around returning to work. So very, very unfortunate that she did take the lives of her 3 kids and did attempt suicide by jumping out the window after. She was indicted for murder that year. That was 2023, and her trial is set for a couple months from now in 2026. My personal reflection after jumping into some of the details of this case are wondering if this is psychosis. I see reference to psychosis, but it's not clear to me if she was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis. Sort of confusing because there is this misconception that you need to have thoughts to kill yourself or others, and that's not necessarily the case for postpartum psychosis. But it sort of seems like since infanticide was involved, that they're pointing to psychosis. Anyway, I'm sort of sitting in this wondering. This was 8 months postpartum and was definitely she was definitely being treated for depression and anxiety. And just leaves me wondering, was this psychosis? It would be interesting to hear more. Anyway, let's get back to Christina. So you said you didn't have a history of mental health within your family. Was mental health something that was talked about in your family?
Mm, not really. Not because like we thought it was like taboo or because we thought it was bad, just because there was just not really anyone in my family experiencing it. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, how would you describe your support network going into your birth?
I would say really good. Most people knew that I really wanted to have a VBAC. That was like my one thing that I wanted to do. And they were supportive of me doing that. And as far as like postpartum, I knew that I had people around me that I could talk with. Like I have a sister. I knew that I could go to her and my husband, if I have any issues, which I knew postpartum I could have some issues. I didn't realize it was going to be this bad, but
Mm.
I knew that I had support.
You said you have a sister. Is she a mother?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really nice to have a
hmm
sister who's a mom. That's great. Okay, and then you shared a little bit about your birth experience with the preeclampsia with your first, that kind of came back in labor. Anything else relevant from like when you were in the hospital after birth?
Yeah, so I said that I was given medicine while I was in labor, and we're not exactly sure, but we think that caused my son to have to go to the NICU right after he was born.
Oh,
We think the blood pressure medicine might have led to this, but not sure. He had low blood sugar and he did have to go to the NICU right after he was born. So I think that definitely led to a lot of my anxiety, not sleeping. I didn't think that would happen. I wanted everything to be perfect, and
yeah,
he's like being taken away from me as soon as he's born. So,
yeah.
I had my VBAC that I wanted. He has to be taken away because something's wrong with him.
That's hard.
So,
Do you remember what the medicine was?
no, I
Okay.
don't. It was like a shot, because my blood pressure was spiking. So they gave me something like a shot in order to get it to go down, but I'm not sure what it's called.
Yeah, that's stressful to
Mhm.
have baby.
Mhm.
How long was your son in the NICU?
Pretty much the most of the time that we were there. So I think I was in the hospital about 3 days, and he was there for at least like 2 days. Some babies stay in the NICU for weeks and months, but when your baby's not with you, it feels like forever. Like
Oh
it
yeah.
did feel like he was in there forever.
And were you able to be with him?
Yeah, I could. He has to be fed every 3 hours. So I would go in and do that, and I could stay in there if I
So you were
wanted
able
to.
to, sorry, were you nursing?
Yes, I was, but he did have to get formula because I guess like my milk
Yeah.
hadn't really come in, so he had to be I had to give him formula while he was in the NICU.
Yeah. That is best. Okay, so then I think you had said that kind of starting in the hospital, you were anxious, not sleeping. How did the first signs show up? Who noticed? What was going on for you?
Yeah. So I think that it really started as soon as he was born while I was in the hospital. And I think it started with my anxiety and not sleeping. For the 3 days I was in the hospital, I'm not sure if it was 2 nights or 3 nights. I can't really remember that. But I know I didn't get any sleep because, of course, I had to keep feeding him every few hours. They were also checking on me because I had high blood pressure. So they would come and check my vital signs. And even if I was sleeping, they would wake me up to check my vital signs,
Ah,
and I would think, well, I can't go to sleep now because I have to do this in 30 minutes. I have to go feed him, or so there was no sleep at all. So that was definitely, I think, what started it. Plus me worrying about him. And then that's kind of just how it continued. Once I went home, I continued to not sleep. And of course, my husband noticed it. I was telling him I wasn't sleeping, and he was helping feed the baby. I would try to lay down and I just could not sleep at all.
mm,
My mind was racing, and I actually went to the emergency room several times. So my first night home from the hospital, so after my son was born, that night my heart was racing. Like I think it was like a panic attack, like a really bad panic attack. I thought it was related to my blood pressure. I did not think it was something else. I thought it was my blood pressure. And I called my husband and it just got worse. Like I couldn't talk. I couldn't tell him like what was wrong, because I didn't know what was wrong. But I told him to call 911, and I actually left to go to the hospital the first night home. So I went to the hospital, and they kept trying to ask me like what's wrong. They would ask me like what's your name, when's your birthday, and I couldn't tell them. It's like I was having some type of like panic attack.
wow.
But
And
they
they
gave me some
didn't, yeah, they didn't, couldn't pick it
um
up on your vital sign or your vitals?
no, like my vitals were fine. Like
Um,
my blood pressure was maybe a little bit high. They couldn't really tell what was wrong with me. I mean, it's just the emergency room. They're not gonna really,
yeah.
pick up on that. But they gave me some blood pressure medicine, and I was able to like calm down to where I could like tell them like my name. I just had a baby. I think it's related to my blood pressure. And then I actually went home. I told my husband that I want to go home because they weren't really helping me. I
Yeah.
mean, they weren't doing anything to help what was wrong with me. So I went home. And then over the next several weeks, I did keep going back to the emergency room when I had that like panic attack, heart racing feeling. And they would give me like anxiety medicine and sleep medicine. I told them I wasn't sleeping, and none
Huh.
of that was working. until I went to my 6-week follow-up appointment with my
Mhm.
OBGYN. And that's kind of when it all kind of came to a head and I was able to go to a real hospital and get some help. But I'll
Okay.
stop there and you can
Yeah, well,
ask some
I want
follow-up
to hear
questions.
that is wild that you went to the ER so many times.
Yeah.
And even going
Hmm.
to get help, you knew it wasn't, something was
Hmm.
wrong. You were not getting care.
Hmm. Yeah, so I did go to the emergency room several times, and I do want to say that at one point, postpartum psychosis was mentioned to me at one of
Hmm.
those visits at the emergency room. They went and got someone from the psychiatric unit because they knew what I was going through was not related to my body, like my blood
Um,
pressure. They knew it was my mind. They went
mhm.
and grabbed someone from the psychiatry unit and he mentioned postpartum psychosis to me. And then he did say, but you're not having thoughts of hurting yourself or others. I said no. And the answer was always no. He said, well, that must not be what you have then. He thought that in order to have postpartum psychosis, you either want to hurt yourself or your baby. So he thought it's probably not that then. But that was mentioned to me at one point in the emergency room visits. It was also me saying, no, I don't have that. So it was probably, I was arguing with him and telling him, no, I don't have that. But I think he also thought you had to either want to hurt yourself or others in order to have postpartum
It's a
psychosis.
misconception.
Um,
Yeah.
so, and I'll tell you some other symptoms over the 6 weeks.
Yeah.
The 6 week period is really when I had postpartum psychosis, is 6 weeks after giving birth. I was having like out of body experiences. Like I felt like I wasn't living in reality. The world wasn't real. And I was also having like delusions. I wasn't having hallucinations. I know people can have that, but I was having delusions, like things that didn't make sense. I can give you
Like
some
what?
examples.
Yeah.
Like one of the times, nighttime was my least favorite time because everyone was sleeping in my house like they should be, but I wasn't sleeping, so I was all alone at night.
Mm,
So that's when I would really think about crazy stuff.
mhm.
Like my phone battery. I would look at my phone and it would say 7% remaining. And I would think that means something bad is going to happen. Like if my phone dies, maybe I'm going to die. So I would always like make sure my phone is charged all the way up because I don't want something bad to happen. I was always looking for signs like someone to tell me something, someone I don't even know, but I was always looking for things to try to help me get out of this state that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I remember like one day I was like in a panic and I was just looking outside and I saw a stray dog and I went outside and like tried to call it over to me because I thought it was going to tell me something. Like I thought it was going to talk to me. Um,
Mm.
so just crazy things like that that didn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I had very similar experiences too.
mhm.
Any other symptoms you want to share or?
I actually do have a blog. I can send it to you.
Sure.
And I've pretty much written down a lot of my experience because it's kind of hard to remember. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, so I was drastically losing weight. I know when I would go to the hospital and tell them I just had a baby, they would say, "You don't look like you just had a baby." And that made me really mad
Oh.
because it seemed like I had lost weight so quickly. I wasn't eating at all. I wasn't hungry. The delusions and out of body experiences, just like my heart racing, panic, anxiety constantly.
Can you give an example of the out of body experience?
Yeah, it would kind of come in waves. So it wouldn't happen all the time. Thank God. That
Yeah.
would be really bad if it was 24/7. But yeah, it would come in waves where I would look out the window and it felt like I was maybe in a snow globe, like I was
Mm.
not living in the world right now. And I couldn't tell what was real,
Mm.
kind of like a dream. And I was holding my baby and it just felt like I was maybe looking down on myself and knowing that I'm not my normal self and like looking down at it, it's really hard to
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah.
But I would tell my husband that I feel like I'm not living in reality right now. And then that's when we would go to the emergency room. Like, what else are you supposed to do? Like, I don't
Yeah,
know. I
yeah,
don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to get out of this
yeah.
nightmare that I felt like I was in.
Were there any themes or patterns that came up in your delusions?
I don't think so. I am a Christian, so I would pray all the time. I would ask God to help me get out of this, but it didn't work. And I was really mad. And then that's when I would look for signs to try to help me. But I wouldn't say that there was any kind of theme. No, not that I know of.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, and then at your 6 week appointment, what was the response of your OB? Like, what did you share and what
Yeah.
did they respond with?
Yeah, so I was really nervous about my 6 week appointment because I really like my doctor and I've had the same doctor for several years and I feel like she knows me really well and knows when something's wrong with me. I'm not my normal self. I felt like I was
Um,
able to hide things from my family. Like I was able to like act normal around them, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that when I go to my follow appointment, which was all about myself and asking how I'm doing. So I get to my 6 week appointment and I am just like sitting in the office like, oh my gosh, this is gonna go terrible. Like I'm not gonna be able to fake it anymore. I have to tell them that I'm absolutely out of my mind right now. So they call my name and the nurse, not even I don't even get to the doctor yet. Just the nurse says, "How are you doing?" And I completely start bawling. I
mm,
say, "I'm not okay." And so she takes me into the room to fill out the postpartum depression survey.
yeah.
And I sit there and I'm basically like, I can't even fill this out. Like I know how bad it is. I'm not gonna fill this out. But then I finally look at it and I basically score as low as possible, like really bad. Now, the question about like hurting yourself was always no, and it was no for that one. But everything else was just the lowest score you can possibly get. My doctor comes in and I talk with her and I tell her about all the things I'm having, out of body experiences, delusions, really bad depression, like just really sad. Nothing is making me happy right now. I'm not getting joy out of anything. And in North Carolina, at the UNC hospital, there's a perinatal psych ward that they have. She tells me that I should go there. And I basically argue with her for the rest of the appointment that I'm not going there. I can't leave my kids. I'm not going there. And I'm bawling during this. And
Mhm.
she told me that my husband actually called the office and said he was really worried about me. She told me that. And I said, nope, I'm not going. And so she says, well, you need to make an appointment with me for next week. I leave the office, I go and sit in my car. And that's when I feel like the lowest point of my life. I felt like helpless. Like I have to get help. I can't, I'm, I can't do this by myself. Nothing is getting better.
Mm.
So I'm sitting in the car and then I go back into the office and I kind of make a scene and I say, I need to talk to my doctor again. So they let me back and I tell her I need to go to the hospital. So that's when we go. My husband takes me and I was there for a week.
Okay. So he
Yeah.
came and picked you up and took you to the
Yeah.
hospital.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, I should have not gone to probably I should not have gone to my doctor's office by myself. Shouldn't have gone to any appointments by myself. But I was very argumentative. Of course, he wants to help me. And he was helping me, but I was also trying to do things by myself and be independent. But at that point, after that appointment, I realized I can't get better by myself, and I have to let people help me.
Mhm.
So he took me there, and yeah, I stayed there for a week, and it was really a really good experience. I think
Yeah.
they really helped me. I started on medicine and therapy with other women. So there were other women there. Nobody that had postpartum psychosis like me, but other women had postpartum depression and other postpartum issues in their it's a perinatal unit. So there was actually one woman that was pregnant that was there. And I actually had heard about her. She did try to kill herself while she was there. So there were all kinds of
That's hard.
situations there, and it was really eye-opening because it was helpful for me to be with other women like me and know that like it wasn't just me. Like it's a common situation that happens and other women are going through it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds amazing. But I'm so
Yeah.
glad you were able to go, like, that your provider helped you know that that existed, like a perinatal
Yeah.
psych ward, and
Hmm.
that there was one nearby that you could go to.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
know that they're not, you know.
Right. I think that might be like the only one in North Carolina. So there's not a lot of those types of perinatal psychiatric units.
Jumping in again to say this is true. Christina was able to go to the only inpatient perinatal psych unit in North Carolina. In fact, it is one of only a couple in the nation, in the United States. I'm finding 5 perinatal psych programs in the United States. It looks like some like partial hospitalization programs might bring that number up to 10 in the United States, though there are a lot of other outpatient programs where you would go during the day and then be home at night. So anyway, yes, this is something that's more available in other countries but less so in the United States. I think it's something that could be addressed. Is there anything that you wish had been different about getting help or treatment?
Yeah, so my OB doctor is the one that really helped me the most. She was the one that really noticed that there is something major going on and we need to get help for her right now. So definitely at the emergency rooms, I really wish that they were able to see that something psychiatric was wrong with me, that nothing was really wrong with my body, it was my
Mhm.
mind. And I wish that the emergency rooms could be more equipped to see this and see that something is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So you were there for a week. When did things start to feel better? Like even when you're in the hospital?
Yeah. I mean, it really started to feel better right away as I got to the psychiatric unit. I don't know if that's just because my mind is finally transitioning to be accepting of help and know that something is wrong with me so that I can kind of let go, maybe. I don't know. It was most helpful to really be there and like allow myself to get help. And I started on medicine. I started on lithium, but I know that doesn't work right away. But I did start on that, and I'm taking that for at least a year. They did give me a couple other antipsychotic medicines, and I think that those helped me to get sleep. So I was finally able to sleep through the night while I was there. So that really helped me the most. And then I was able to eat too because I started to feel like hungry again, like I wanted to eat food.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, so eating was one sign that things were getting better. You're sleeping. When you were out of the hospital, what helped you know, like, okay, things are getting better? Or was it kind
yeah,
of like the hospital, you felt like you got back to baseline?
no, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess another symptom I forgot to explain was confusion. I felt very confused about simple things. Like before going to the hospital, I wasn't really able to comprehend things very well. Like I would watch TV or I would watch the news, and it was like it was going one ear out the other. Like it was not, my mind was not comprehending it. And doing simple things like cooking, like trying to cook for my family, which is what I do all the time. I couldn't figure out how to do that. So I just wouldn't. It's like, we're going to get takeout because I can't figure out how to cook a simple meal. Confusion and disorientation was also a big symptom, and that did start to get a lot better after, I think probably after being on medicine and sleeping again. So that started to get a lot better too. After I left the hospital, my family helped a lot with the kids because I couldn't really be alone with them all day long for several weeks after that. Um,
Yeah. Do you have family
but
nearby?
yeah, Yeah, I have my parents and then my husband's parents are also nearby. So they helped with the kids a lot. So yeah, the several weeks after the hospital, eating and sleeping and getting my mind back to being able to think straight
Yeah,
and do just simple things that I normally did every day started to get a lot better.
that's great. What kept you going in the hardest moments?
Well, of course, it was always my kids. And just knowing that my family was very supportive and helpful. They came and visited me while I was at UNC Hospital. Like someone came every single day to see me, which I didn't think was
Wow.
going to happen. I don't know why I thought that they weren't going to do that, but just knowing that I had so much support really helped me.
Yeah.
That I'm really like knowing that I'm not doing this by myself. I'm not alone.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay. I want to hear about the impact of the experience on you. How did the experience change you or impact you?
Yeah, I think it changed me to be more of a vulnerable person and share the life experience that I'm going through with other women and with my family and my friends. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. How did it impact your relationship with your baby and then your
Mhm.
partner? I want to hear, or your older child too, if at all.
So with my first child, my postpartum was great. Like I felt like it was beautiful. Like it was a wonderful experience. I was able to connect with her right away in the hospital as soon as she was born. I mean, it was a great experience. And then with my second, not so much. It was really hard for me to connect with him. I just didn't have like the same like mother instincts. And I was really upset about that. I was upset that I didn't really have the same ex- postpartum experience with my second baby. But I think that I'm finally starting to get that now. I'm finally able to connect with him and um yeah, like experience joy now.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Just a validation that I felt the same way. Like it was hard. Mothering was, it impacted my own self-concept of me as a mother. I mean, on that topic, anything else about how it's maybe impacted the way you see yourself as a mother or like future kids? I know you shared that you're already feeling like you're done.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we are done because I have had my tubes removed, so we won't be having another kid. But if I were to, I would be really scared if I were to get pregnant for postpartum psychosis to come back.
Mm.
I can't imagine other women that have postpartum psychosis, and then when they get pregnant, that would be really scary. So, yeah, I don't think that I'll be getting pregnant again, but I have heard that it's possible to have another psychotic episode later in life. And so I'm kind of nervous about that happening. I do have a psychiatrist now, and he told me like a statistic that women that have postpartum psychosis, about half of them only experience it, during their postpartum period, and then half will have another psychotic episode. So I'm kind of nervous about that. He doesn't think that's the case for me.
I also feel it. Like it's kind of like this lingering, wow, that happened to me. Like I don't really understand why and could it happen again? It's scary.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to link an article in the show notes where you find this 50% recurrence stat that Christina referenced. I'll say that skimming some of the cited articles from this article show pretty broad ranges for recurrence and different approaches to measuring and following up on these cases. It's not always looking exclusively at postpartum psychosis. One study looked at outcomes for 61 women about 25 years after experiencing postpartum psychosis and found that almost 3/4 of patients were symptom free and well adjusted 25 years later. And of those who had gone on to have a pregnancy after their experience with postpartum psychosis, only a quarter of them had a second or subsequent postpartum psychosis. Another study looks at the difference of women who have episodes in the perinatal period versus those who have episodes both in the perinatal period as well as other times of life. And this study suggested that there weren't significant differences between these populations, yet found some difference in their relatives. So it sort of suggests that perhaps there's a lower genetic predisposition for those who only have episodes in the perinatal period. Not sure what we do with that. I do understand that MGHP3, this research hub out of Boston, Massachusetts General Hospital, they explore postpartum psychosis, and I know that they're working on looking at genetic factors based on, I sent in my own spit sample, and I do hope that they will publish something soon. These same researchers at MGHP3 have found in other work that most women who go through postpartum psychosis, many do have a history of mood disorders or later develop mood episodes outside of the postpartum period, but there is a smaller group of women who only ever experience psychiatric episodes after giving birth. And since we see delirium-like symptoms like confusion, trouble recognizing familiar people, or feeling detached from reality, that there could be, in certain cases, they could have biological or neurological roots rather than being purely psychiatric. So some studies in other groups of patients have shown that some people who appear to have their first psychiatric breakdown are actually dealing with a condition called autoimmune encephalitis, which can be linked to antibodies that interfere with brain function. So along similar lines, researchers have found that women experiencing postpartum psychosis for the first time often show significant changes in their immune system, which is interesting and something that I've thought about. So on that, I know that earlier Christina had mentioned preeclampsia, and I looked into this because I have seen an association in some of the literature of psychosis and pregnancies where there's some medical issues like infection, hypertension, preeclampsia, or other complications. It looks like most recent research is not seeing consistent prediction for these risks for psychosis. There seems to be more research exploring an association of preeclampsia and postpartum mood disorders more broadly, as opposed to psychosis specifically. One systematic review looking at 13 studies on this topic found that most, but not all, had an association between preeclampsia and an increased risk for postpartum psychiatric illness. Only 2 of these were looking at psychosis as part of what they were looking into, and the subset of women who had both postpartum psychosis and preeclampsia was really small due to low occurrence. So there's not really much you could say with that sample size. But on the note of having psychosis later in life, because of the talk around postpartum psychosis and hormonal changes being part of the development of the disease, I wondered about menopause and what research there is on menopause and midlife psychoses. A quick search shows a 2022 article calling for more attention to understand why we see increased cases of psychosis for women in midlife, where we don't see that for men. And it notes that mechanisms for developing a mood or psychotic disorder during menopause are different than during other periods of life. And just generally that, I guess, we need more attention here. Hooray! More needs for research in women's health. All right, let's get back to Christina. How would you describe the process over the last year in recovering?
So the confusion and disorientation did take a long time to get back to normal. Thankfully, I did have a very long maternity leave,
Mm,
but I was really nervous about going back to work because at first it just felt like I couldn't even do like simple things. How am I going to do my actual job? But that I would say that probably took several months to get back to where like my normal headspace is. I'm only taking one medicine now, which is lithium, and I'll probably be able to wean off of it around a year postpartum. And so I'm hoping I can do that.
that's soon, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't think that there will be any like long-term medications that I'll need to take. I feel like I am back to my normal self. This whole thing really did make me realize that mental health issues are real. Like, I guess once I got to the psych ward, I thought it was just like crazy people that were there. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like that's not me. But it really made me realize that everyone can have mental health issues throughout their life, and it can be just something really short-lived, or it can last for a long time, and they're not crazy. We can all go through things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember feeling that word crazy felt a little triggering for me after. Like, maybe let's use a different word. Now it's not
Yeah,
like, but I remember fresh after I was discharged being like, maybe let's choose another word, or I'm going to choose to not use crazy because it feels,
yeah.
yeah, less fair. Okay.
Hmm.
What proud moments have you had since? What have you accomplished? Like, you went back to work. Any
Hmm.
other things that you're like, I didn't think I would be able to do that myself, freshly postpartum, wouldn't believe what I've been able to accomplish.
Um, yep, I wrote a blog and I shared it with my family and friends, and it's pretty much just all of the details about what I was thinking during this time and what I was going through. Because at the time, I wasn't really telling them anything. I was telling them I'm fine. Um,
Mm.
but I really wrote all of my thoughts and experiences down, and I shared it with my family and friends, and I posted it on my Facebook so anyone could read. So I think I'm proud of myself for not hiding this experience, trying to share it with other women just so that they know that this is something we can all talk about. We don't have to keep it a secret. So I'm proud about that. And just being a mother of two, like it's hard having two kids. One, they're just completely different. So I'm proud of myself for raising two kids.
Yeah. Yes, that is an accomplishment for sure. Just the day-to-day, like raising
Yeah.
of a child. I want to hear a little bit more on this process of writing your blog. What made you decide to do that? And at what point did you
Mhm.
write your experience?
Well, I wanted to do it because I didn't want to forget it. I wanted to have it for me to read later, to remember exactly what I went through. And I wanted to do it so that mainly my family could know what I was thinking during that time because I wasn't sharing with them what I was going through. So I wanted to share with them now. And I didn't write it all at one time because certain things would come back to me. Like a couple weeks later, I would remember something that happened to
Mm.
me. So I would put it into the blog. Yeah, certain things just remind me of that period of time.
So it
Um,
sounds like it was almost like a container for you to hold
yeah.
and record your memories of the
Hmm.
experience.
Yeah. Hmm.
And did you decide to do that like when you got home, or was it a little bit later?
So I wrote it probably a couple months after it happened. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, that's great. I think that's a really wise thing that you did for yourself and for your family.
Hmm.
It sounds like it could be really therapeutic and healing. Is there anything that you would recommend to someone in the process of documenting your experience? Anything that you learned as you went along? Like, I guess one would be go back and add details as you remember them.
Yeah. So I did forget to mention that, the book Understanding Postpartum Psychosis. Yeah, I think you mentioned that. So I actually didn't realize what I had. I didn't know what I was going through at all until I got to UNC Hospital. And they actually had that book there because it was a perinatal psych ward. So they had that book there in a locked bookshelf. I had to ask the nurse to get it for me. And so I actually saw that book there and I opened it up and I started reading and I went to the list of symptoms and I read that and I said, this is what I have. And so that helped me out a lot. So what I was getting at was it helps me a lot to read other women's experiences because that's what that book has. It has a bunch of different stories
Yeah.
of women that have gone through this. So that helped me to read other women's stories. So that's also kind of why I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to put my story
Yeah.
down. So I wanted to document the same thing, like what were the symptoms that I was having. And like I was saying, I didn't write it all at one time. It was probably over the course of several months that I put that together. Because right after you go through that, your headspace is not in the right place to write a big thing like that all at once. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would suggest writing down like what you were thinking just when you remember something, when you see something and it reminds you of what you were going through, write down and you can kind of collect it all later if you want to have a blog or a story for yourself
Yeah.
later.
You shared that you're Christian. How did this experience impact your religiosity or spirituality?
Mhm. Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting because when I was going through it, I was really mad. I didn't understand, like, why is God putting me through this? Like, why is this happening to me? It felt like I was in a nightmare. Like I felt like I was in hell and I couldn't escape. And I was praying to God to get me out of this, and that wasn't working. And I was really mad about that.
Mm.
And so it's kind of taken me a while to come to terms with that. While I was at UNC Hospital, I was able to talk with the chaplain and I asked him those questions like, why am I going through this? Why is God putting me through this?
Mm.
I don't understand. And he kind of told me that God puts us through experiences so that we can help other people, so that we can be stronger people. And I actually had asked him about medicine too, because before this I was really not used to taking prescription medicine at all. And so I was really skeptical of taking something for a year, which is what I've been doing. And so he told me that, God has made certain people doctors and he's given us medicine. So it has really taken me a long time to come to terms with how mental health,
Fits
how,
in.
why do we have these experiences? I guess I just thought before, like, if you're a Christian, you wouldn't have something like this happen to you because you have God on your side and you can pray to get better. I guess I'm still kind of going through the
Yeah.
processing.
So the chaplain was able to help you, it sounds like, be more open to like medicine and like
Hmm.
therapies and help, which
Yeah.
is a really great outcome and sounds awesome that you like I didn't have access to a chaplain. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
This perinatal psych ward sounds like it was really nice.
Yeah, it was a really good experience. Yeah. I'm not really sure what would have happened if I didn't go there to that hospital. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think it really helped me a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who's recently experienced postpartum psychosis?
Um, my advice would be to not go through it alone. Find your family and friends that are supportive of you. They love you and they want you to get better. And one of the things that I learned at the hospital was that this is not my fault. This is not our fault. So all of the women there, what we were going through was not our fault. It can happen to anyone. Mental health is common, even though that we don't talk about it. And one of the things I was really argumentative of treatment and going to the hospital. I did not want to go to the hospital for a week. That sounded like forever for me to be away from my kids, but it's not. For your entire life, going to the hospital and being away from your family, it's nothing compared to, your whole life. This is going to help you in order to get back to your family and get back to your normal self.
Yeah, this has been so lovely. It's healing for me to hear your story. Thank you
Mhm.
so much. And I'm excited to, put this together and have another forum for people to learn about postpartum psychosis. So grateful to Christina for her advocacy work and boldly sharing her story in many formats, including here. Her blog post is linked in the show notes if you'd like to read more about her experience. I've also included links to the many studies that I pointed to and hope that's helpful in any type of questions that come up for you. You're welcome to review those resources. A personal reflection that I really loved hearing about Christina, how she described symptoms, how she talked about writing as a form of healing in thinking through her experience through her blog. And I will also link a journaling protocol that is this evidence based approach to processing big experiences that my psychiatrist pointed me to. It's a series of prompts to write about an experience 4 days in a row to help process and work through it and reduce stress for when you later recall. So if you're looking for resources to process your own experience, I'll also link that. Okay. Be kind to your mind. Thanks for listening.